Hello, people.
Welcome to the Macaw Podcast Universe.
Yes, welcome. Today is December 6th, as everybody knows.
We didn't have to redo this again because I stumped Micah on the date.
Yes, we did not. And today we're talking about
Captain Marvel.
the fourth Captain movie in the series.
Oh, okay.
And
Cool.
the first female-led movie in the entire franchise.
This is the 21st movie in the franchise, and we finally got a girl.
And we got a girl, and she kicks butt. And this is a very good movie. I like it a lot. We should talk about it today in our episode of the Macaw Podcast Universe.
Why not?
The podcast where two people, sometimes more, maybe there's going to be a guest soon. Hint, hint. Oh. As Tim Allen said.
Whoa, spoiler alert.
Uh-oh. And
Everyone thinks it's going to be Tim Allen.
Anyway, but
This
we
is
get
a
together.
podcast where we talk about movie franchises. And we see if we analyze movies to see if they fit in a franchise, if they don't fit in a franchise, why, how, when, where, and who, and what.
Yeah, and this one is kind of interesting. We're almost at the end of Marvel. This is them kind of filling in some of the gaps as far as timelines go before a lot of the movies take place.
I feel with Marvel at this point, watching it so much and having like recently gone through like Endgame in theaters and stuff, I just feel like once we're done with this, I feel like, do I have to start watching them again? I feel like they always have to be something I'm watching because that's how it's how it's felt for the past some odd years. It's always like, yeah, I guess there's this Marvel movie we can watch, but after that, it's like we can actually take a break from Marvel.
Oh, you mean like it'll be weird to be caught up and like having watched them all and ready to go?
Yeah,
because we won't have to watch one until I think March or April. So I mean, it's like it'll be a while before we have to watch another one.
Yeah, it's weird to think about.
Unless it's
like
just
school.
for fun.
It's like when you finally graduate high school or college, and then you're like, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
What now?
Yeah, so we're almost graduated. But yeah, this movie's kind of interesting. It's in the 90s.
Set in the 90s.
Set in the 90s, and it's kind of filling in some of the gaps. And I think this movie does kind of open up the universe a little bit in a cool way. We get introduced to Skrulls, which are pretty cool. It also like gives the implication that it's not just Steve Rogers was a hero, then nothing went on until Hulk and Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait, so there's some other stuff that was going on, and it leaves the potential for like maybe movies that take place in between that time period, which is a pretty cool thing.
It gives Nick Fury and a larger sense S.H.I.E.L.D. more of a validity to what they're doing. Because, I mean, not that I never thought that. I just remember, like, always thinking like, yep, that's S.H.I.E.L.D. That's just what they do. And I don't really question how they got here and how they like basically know the aliens exist. And they're like not fazed by it. But, But
it's
like
never
this
been
is
an
like
issue,
a nice anecdote.
And I think for the most part, this movie doesn't fall. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it falls too far into that prequel problem that a lot of movies have. Because as we'll discuss as we discuss more series, a lot of prequels get bogged down on trying to set up future stories and not telling a present story.
Well, this story is not about who she's supposed to be. It's about who she was.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, prequel movies or origin stories are about who they're supposed to be. This is about her.
Wait, can you go further with that? I don't know what you mean by
I
that.
just feel like this movie kind of, a lot of it, you know, there's that thing a lot where it's like the thing that they have to learn is like not who they think they are, who they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. But this movie's about her remembering who she was.
Oh, sure.
And I mean, she does grow and change as a character because it'd be boring if she didn't. But I think that she does. A big part of it to get to that point is she has to remember who she was.
She like embraces the past instead of just like, I can change my past. It's like, yeah. But yeah, I don't think that's a good point. I think that
you don't think that's a good point?
I think that's a good point. And then the other sentence that I should have said instead of mixing them together is I don't think the movie falls too far into the camp of what I always cite as one of my least favorite examples in Solo when Han Solo walks up to the counter and the guy asks him what his last name is, and he's like, I don't have a last name. And the guy goes, Solo. You're kind of like, I didn't need to have an origin for his name, you know?
But, I mean, did they always, in the original Star Wars, did they ever make a big deal out of his name?
No, they never made a big deal about
the cool thing about
name.
Star Wars original stuff. And I'm not saying I don't like the new stuff.
Yeah,
but the cool part about the world,
Solo, but
yeah, the new part about the cool part about the Star Wars world is they don't have to explain anything, and it's you just like either understand it or don't, but you don't really care either way.
Yeah,
at least that's how I feel, and I'm not like a mega fan.
Yeah,
so I know mega fans get kind of too into it,
right? And so some prequels kind of just get stuck on like trying to provide significance to things that they know people like, when things aren't that significant to begin with. So, for example, I mean, in this movie they have the Tesseract, but we already know that holds significance throughout history, so it's not odd. Now you do have the Fury Eye, which we'll get into, and then the Avengers Initiative at the end, which we'll get into. But anyway, that's kind of my precursor
production notes
to what we're going to be talking about. So we are doing Captain Marvel, of course, and this movie is directed by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck. And you might be thinking, wait, did they not give a woman like a chance to just make the movie? They did, in my opinion, anyway, because the Ryan Fleck and Anna Boden are directing partners, so they've directed previous movies together. So Ryan Fleck directed Half Nelson, which is a movie that has Ryan Gosling in it. One of his earlier movies.
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it.
I've always wondered if that movie's good or not.
Yeah, I think Trevin likes it.
Okay.
And I think Anna Boden is like an uncredited director, kind of like a Joel and Ethan Coen sort of situation. You know how sometimes
She'll get there.
Yeah. Well, and then they're both credited for Mississippi Grind. It's kind of a funny story. That was the Zach Galifianakis movie. I never saw it, but I think he was like going to...
I'm going to look up the cover.
Like rehab or something like that. And then also a movie called Sugar. The movie's produced by Kevin Feige. The screenplay is by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck.
I've seen this movie.
And who else is in it? Isn't it like Zach Braff?
Emma Roberts is in it.
Emma Roberts.
Zac Efron.
Zac Efron.
No,
I said Zach Braff. Was it Zach Braff?
Oh, is that the Scrubs guy? No,
yeah.
But it's got Jim Gaffigan.
Okay.
And Lauren Graham from Gilmore Chicks.
Okay. It's kind of a funny story. How about it's kind of a funny, let's go back to the screenplay of Captain Marvel. So Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck did the screenplay, as well as Geneva Robertson Dworet, who did the new Tomb Raider movie as well. Those are like her only credits. Or Captain
what was the
Marvel
other one? Captain Marvel and that?
Yeah. And then story, you have Nicole Perman and Meg... Well, no, I'm sorry. So you have Nicole Perman, who, if you remember, she was the one that was involved in the original Guardians draft.
I thought it was Perlman.
Maybe, yeah, I think it is. I misspelled it. She was in the original Guardians draft, and then she also wrote Detective Pikachu, one of the writers.
Yeah.
That seems weird, though, because remember, we listened to the blank check that had the writers of that movie on.
Remember, a big thing they talked about is who actually gets the writing credit.
That's right. Yeah.
And lobbying to get the writing credit, which sounds like a nightmare. I'm
super confused by Nicole's...
She sounds like a woman who has a lot of fingers and a lot of pies.
Yeah, it just sounds like because she started, even when I was doing the research, she like started on this. She didn't finish Captain Marvel. She like took a pass at it, and then Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck tried it out, and Geneva, the person I mentioned in the screenplay, and then this other woman, Meg Lefebvre, she who also wrote Inside Out and The Good Dinosaur. So she's a Pixar person. And so, I'm kind of curious about Nicole a little bit more.
Maybe she's someone that, I don't know, she has a lot of fingers and a lot of pies, and people are like, who would like maybe have a fresh take is Nicole.
Maybe,
someone call Nicole. And maybe she's Nicole, just an ideas person.
We'd love to have you on, and we'd love to talk to you about what you do.
Get to the bottom of these pies that your fingers are in.
The music, this is interesting. The music is by Pinar Toprak.
So it's by Soap.
who did the music for that short we watched, Pearl, that Pixar short. I think it was Pixar anyway. And she did the...
It was because it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Well, but it might not have been Pixar.
You mean Pixar? Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then she did Fortnite, the score for Fortnite.
Is that the video game?
Yes. And the other thing is, it's a she, if you're noticing, which this is the first time in the entire Marvel universe that we've had a woman composer.
Wow, that sucks.
So that's kind of interesting. Cinematography, we have Ben Davis, who did the original Guardians movie, and I think he did Ultron as well. And another one, I think. So he's a Marvel guy.
I thought this movie looked good.
I thought the movie looked really good. It has a pretty like, it still stays within the realm.
Yeah, but I think
it's
got some more contrast than usual.
It's got more contrast, and I think there's a little bit more of like I don't know. It feels a little more intimate the way it's filmed. It's not so like focused on the bigger stuff. It is, at least. Did you feel that way?
More intimate, you said?
The movie feels more intimate with how it's shot as well. There's still the action set pieces, but I feel like for the most part, it's more... I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. About it. Well, I'll just keep moving on. Production studio, Marvel Studios, of course, distributed by Walt Disney Studios. Comes out March 8th, 2019, earlier this year. The budget is $152 million to $175 million, somewhere in that range. Domestically, the movie makes $426,829,839. I couldn't see if those were eights or if they were sixes because I'm not wearing my glasses. Worldwide, the movie makes $1,126,274,794. So, a smashing success.
Yep.
So in the pre-production, here's what. So earlier you had talked about how you thought that it took them forever to do a girl movie, right? So a discussion that's worth having is that while yes, it has taken them this long to make a female-led movie, the stuff that I was reading that Kevin Feige was saying and the writers of the movie is that I think because of both culture and the pressure they were putting on themselves, they were so obsessed with getting this movie right that they just didn't want to make the first one like not a good movie. So I think that is kind of interesting to say.
You know what the interesting thing about that is?
Yeah.
Glad that they spent the time to make it right, because I think that they did do it right, and I think it's a good movie. What's funny about it, because sexism is just a thing that exists, it sucks that people have to spend so much time to get it right.
I know, that's the funny flip side of it.
Well, if they had made it 5-7 years ago, that they wouldn't even think about that and it'd be fine. And it's like, no, it'd probably be a sexist movie.
yeah.
If they didn't spend time on it. So it's like a weird catch-22 thing. So it's like, I appreciate that they did spend a good deal of time on it, but part of it, and this is just something that it's like just being mad at the system. Yeah. If anything, where it's just like, it's dumb that they have to like focus that much on, like spend probably more energy on this movie than any other in a way that they've never had to before.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And so they have been talking about doing a female-led movie since 2013, which is still probably too late to have the discussion.
Yeah.
But still, that's, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a while. And then I have a... it is, in fact.
Wasn't the first Avengers movie 2012?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think after that, they were like, the universe is open.
Yeah.
What are some girls we can add to this? Or, can we do a Black Widow movie or something like that? So then Nicole Perlman has this quote that I wanted to read, that she said, we've been talking a lot about how to write a strong female superhero without making it Superman with boobs. We'll catch ourselves and say, wait a minute, what are we saying here about women in power? Then we have to say, why are we getting so hung up on that? We should just tell the best story and build the best character. And then we have this constant back and forth about how to tell a story that is compelling, entertaining, moving, kick-ass, and fun, and also be aware of what those larger implications might be. So you can tell that they were like taking it pretty seriously, and they didn't want to mess things up. And then, yeah, there were just a lot of quotes about them not wanting to get the movie into, like, get her into, like, the Superman zone with her powers just being, like, so powerful.
She can do anything. She's Superman.
She's invincible. Brie Larson was paid $5 million, and they laid them out in $1 bills. And you can watch the video online. It's 2.5 hours long.
Did you do any research about how people don't like her? Currently?
I started to, and then I was like, I'm already annoyed and bored by this subject.
But did you pull up anything?
Well, I was trying to figure out, because I had heard that she said she did all her stunts, and I pulled up an article that said she did a lot of her own stunts and said that she did a lot of her own stunts, not that she did all of them. So I don't know where that came from.
I wonder, even if that's true or not, I feel like what people are more upset about is her attitude.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched anything or have read much or anything, but it seems like that's more of her being cocky about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the sense that I get.
I don't know. Because then also, like, at the MTV Movie Awards, she, like, pulled her stunt double on stage, so I don't know.
What was she doing there?
Or, I mean, the the People's Choice, or one of those, like, award shows.
MTV Music Video Awards for Captain Marvel.
Yeah, no. But then again, it's like, well, maybe that was after people were giving her flack. But I don't know. I don't really care.
Well, no, it's just, I mean, we are talking about the production and all that stuff now. But it's like, at the end of the day, we're going to just talk about this movie.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if she does a good job in the movie, I don't care. And I guess maybe the larger thing to talk about that's interesting is, say, Chris Evans acts the exact same way. People aren't going to give it that much credit.
Oh, no.
They're just going to be like, oh, yeah, he's cool. But since she's a girl, it's like, oh, she's one of those girls that, like,
also
thinks she's strong and powerful, which is stupid.
Chris Evans would never do that, and how dare you for saying that?
Well, that is part of this whole thing. But it is a funny thing, because I just remember when the movie came out, I heard a lot of people talking about, like, the way she was acting, and I'm like, outside of the movie, and I'm just kind of like, whatever, I don't care. Like, she's one of my favorite actresses. The movie's cool, so who cares? Like, they're paid not to be themselves. What's your big problem here, people? And if it was a guy, they wouldn't have acted the same way. That's dumb.
Yeah.
So
okay,
the movie, well, wait, what did you have more to say?
No, it's just fun. No, I'm just thinking of dumb jokes.
Oh yeah, I am not a woman, so I can't speak to certain issues, but especially, like, with acting, like, actors are different people off stage, and it just annoys me when people.
Well, I always, in these conversations,
paid not to be themselves.
I always think of that interview with Tom Hardy when he, in the movie Legend, where he plays someone who's gay, and someone asks him, what's your sexual orientation? And he said, doesn't matter. I'm here to talk about the movie. Next question.
Yeah.
And it's like, who cares? He's playing a character. Yeah.
And also, like, that, like, Tom Hardy, again, for an example, he's amazing. Every interview I've seen with him, it's the most boring thing in the world.
Yeah, no, it so is.
It's such a boring interview.
If you guys think that Leonardo DiCaprio takes his job too seriously, watch Revenant interviews with Tom Hardy and Leonardo DiCaprio. You think Leonardo DiCaprio, like, dies and goes to heaven every time he does a movie, he's that excited, compared to Tom Hardy.
Well, what's funny, do you remember in that interview? So I think it's, like, during the same segment, they're talking to Leonardo DiCaprio, and they're like, this shoot for Revenant was so hard. Can you tell us about it? And he's like, it was so hard. And he's going, the weather and, like, all the brutality we had to go through. They asked Tom Hardy the same question, and he's like, I wouldn't say I found it hard. We just went out, and I mean, some days were longer than others, and sometimes we had to move some snow would
always
around,
make it about, like, this is art, and this is like and all this stuff, and
which
it's like,
it is, but
no, it is for sure. But at the point, it gets to a point where it's like, come on, dude, how much did you get paid for this movie?
Yeah. But I just remember he was so much like that. It was really funny.
Yeah.
So then we got to talk about taxes. I mean, if we're going to talk about Captain Marvel, what goes hand in hand is we have to do taxes. I'm almost done. This is a movie podcast, yo. This movie had a $20.7 million tax credit to film in California. Why? Find it interesting. I don't know how that stuff works. But, I mean, almost all these movies are filmed in Atlanta. And this movie was filmed in LA. And I think the director, Ryan Fleck, one of the directors, said, like, it was kind of interesting and throwback in a way because, like, no one films in California anymore.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you think it's because of the Me Too thing? No one wanted to film there anymore? And they're like, please film your movie here. We'll give you money.
I don't think people haven't been filming there for years. I don't think so.
It's totally the Me Too thing.
And the working title to this movie was Open World. And then Ben Davis, the cinematographer, talked about how the company Panavision, someone who worked for it, Dan Sasaki, tailor-made lenses so that they'd have a softer look for the 90s, like when they're on Earth and stuff. And then there'd be a little bit of a difference between the 90s and space.
Oh, I totally feel that.
But then he did wind up using a lot of it in space because he said he really liked the lens a lot.
Oh, really? Because I feel like, okay.
I think in the close-up shots he did a lot.
Oh, okay.
Not a lot. He just said he wanted that differential, which totally is there, but then he kind of like wound up using it a little bit in space because the way he talked about it was kind of like a kid almost, like, well, I had to play with the toy. It was just there. And then Lola VFX worked on the de-aging of Jackson, and they originally started with several movies as reference because we've talked about this before. It's like Jackson was there in the 90s, so we all know what he looked like. So they had a pretty big task. And so they referenced Pulp Fiction, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Jurassic Park, Loaded Weapon 1, which I've never heard of, and then a movie called 187. And then as they were going...
What was the second movie you said?
Loaded Weapon 1.
No, the second movie you said.
Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Didn't know he was in a Die Hard movie.
Yeah, he's the bad guy in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Spoiler.
I think you know that pretty close off the bat. I don't think it's a ruse. And then once they were starting to get into it a little bit more, they were like, well, we have to get rid of looking at Pulp Fiction because he has a wig and facial hair. That's not helpful. And then they got rid of Jurassic Park as well because it made in that movie, I guess they tried to age him up. So they're like, that doesn't work either.
He has so little screen time, and they're never like full on face shots, I feel like.
In Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are.
He's not in the movie that much, though.
I mean, he's in a good amount of them. I mean, not a good amount, but he also goes to a different room and helps Laura Dern with the circuits and stuff.
Genuinely. Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's in like 5 or 6 scenes probably. Like most of it's in that room though. And then he wore him and
let the record show that Micah got mad at me for not understanding a Jurassic Park reference.
I'm just gonna cut all that. So they wore him and Greg Clark or whatever. They wore tracking dots. During the filming, and they didn't
have Robert Paulson.
Agent Coulson. But they didn't have body doubles. So I guess a lot of times they'll do like a body double and then they'll do the facial as well.
Hard.
So they just skipped that step because they didn't have time to do all of that.
Yeah, not having the double sounds hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my notes.
Oh, finally.
It wasn't even that many. My goodness.
Wait till you hear the Toy Story episode. Jeez.
Yeah. Wait. That's exclusive. You can't tell people that.
We already told people.
No, that was Avengers Endgame. That's the episode that comes out next week.
I thought you were getting mad because we haven't told people Toy Story, but we already did. Oh, sorry, people. Sometimes we record ahead of time. No other podcast on Earth does that.
I guess if you want to get ready for our next series, it's going to be Toy Story.
We already said that.
On the Endgame episode, which is next week.
Okay, I'm just going to jump into my notes.
This is the announcement. You just announced it because this movie came out before.
We're doing Toy Story. Big whoop-de-doo. And then in the next episode, I guess you'll hear it in a much nicer tone.
Yeah.
Okay, so star of this movie is Brie Larson, not the cheese, the woman. So she has been in a lot more movies than I think of off the top of my head. But then when you like see her filmography, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, she's been in these movies. She's in 21 Jump Street.
Seen it.
Short Term 12.
Seen it.
Really good movie, people. It also has Lakeith Stanfield in it.
Darius.
Unicorn Store,
Seen it.
Which came out this year, and it's directed and written by her.
Yeah, and Samuel L. Jackson's in it.
Room, Academy Award-winning role alongside Jacob Tremblay.
Your boy.
Yes. He's great. She's also really great too, though. If anyone has not seen that movie, watch it. But make sure genuinely have a box of tissues next to you.
I haven't seen it.
And then she's in Community. She's Abed's girlfriend, which I
always forget that. She's great.
And then
she's so good.
What kind of sucks about it, since that show got canceled shortly after that season. And she got really famous after all those things. They just couldn't use her when they were really setting her up to be like, this is the perfect girl for Abed.
And she's just in like 4 or 5
and then they just can't do any more with her, which is like, that makes sense, but it sucks because she's so great. And then Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Seen it.
13 going on 30. And she's in Sleepover. People, she's in Sleepover. Veronica will probably only get anything out of this, but this is one of the biggest movies of our preteen years, starring the girl from Spy Kids, the guy from American Horror Story, Peter
Serafinowicz.
No. You know who I'm talking about. He's younger. He's like our age. Oh, he's also an X-Men.
Oh, I don't think his name's Peter, but maybe it is. We call him Little Peter.
What's his name?
His name is Peter Tremblay.
Can you look it up?
Okay, but keep going.
It's just crazy because she's like the lead mean girl in Sleepover, and I can't believe it because the movie's such a big part of my life, my preteen years, and then I go look at these pictures and I'm like, I hardly recognize her in those pictures. Okay, fine, I'll move forward.
Evan Peters.
Yeah.
But his name in X-Men is Peter Maximoff. So that's kind of interesting.
Anyway, and then
not.
I haven't seen him in it, and I don't look forward to it. Ben Mendelsohn, who plays one of the Skrulls, forget the character's name.
Yeah, that's
already. Okay. Tolslow. Anyway, he's in a lot of movies too. He's in Ready Player One.
Yeah.
He's in The Dark Knight Rises. Hope I just shattered a couple people's worlds.
Yeah.
Rogue One.
Is he the mask guy, right? He's the one that says like, you want to take off that mask? No, that's a different guy. Who is he in Dark Knight Rises again?
So you know how Bane has like, there's like 2 guys that play the same role, and it's Ben Mendelsohn and that other guy, and the other guy reminds me of a doll.
Yeah.
And that's the guy that falls into the river.
Yeah.
He's the other guy. And I remember seeing The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, yeah.
And being like, that guy's really good. And his neck gets cracked and he dies.
Yeah.
Like Bane kills him, and it's like, I remember that guy. I'm holding on to him.
Yeah.
And look who we have now, Mr. Ben Mendelsohn.
Do you remember, though, at the beginning when the guy asks, it's just a great intro to a movie, when he's like, what would happen if we took off that mask? It would be painful. For you. You're like, whoa. Bum, 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 bum.
And then I said Rogue One, I think. He's in Rogue One.
Yeah, he's a Darth Vader guy.
He's not Darth Vader.
I don't know his name.
He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
He likes playing the bad guy.
Yeah, he's kind of settled into that role, which kind of makes for a fun...
Good casting
because you're like, oh, this guy, he's always the bad guy, and then it flips on its head a little bit.
Fun fact, people, he's Australian, which I know he has his accent in this movie, but most movies I've seen him in, he's just American.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun. It's always interesting. We talk about people who have lisp. I said lisps with a lisp.
Yeah.
People who have lisp and are actors.
Yeah.
If they can do different accents, that's just really fascinating because a lisp is technically a speech impediment. Yeah. And so it's just interesting, like, oh, he still has like control over the way his voice. Like, and I know I'm saying this because of the people listening, not because of you, because I bring up Joel Edgerton all the time. But Joel Edgerton in real life has like a prominent lisp, but he in none of his movies does he has a lisp.
I still have to like look that up.
At all. And it's crazy because it's like, if you can control not doing it, how come you do it?
Yeah.
I don't get it, man. Okay, back to Ben Mendelsohn. He's also in Quigley Down Under.
That shattered my world. That's an old movie.
He's in Darkest Hour, which I don't remember him. He's a king. Maybe he's
the king.
Okay, yeah. He's the king in The Darkest Hour. He's in Lost River, apparently.
Yeah.
And then he's in Exodus the Christian Bale one.
Gods and Kings.
Gods and Kings.
He's also in Place Beyond the Pines. He's the motorcycle owner. He's the guy who
I gotta watch that movie again even more.
Yeah.
I've been really wanting to rewatch that one.
He's always a gem, though. I mean, even if he is doing the kind of over the top villain thing, I'm always into it.
Me too.
Like even in Ready Player One, he is bathing in the river of ham.
He's like,
and it is great.
He's like what we wanted and hoped for in Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
But Christoph Waltz comes on the scene.
Yes.
And he's amazing. Such a great actor, wins an Academy Award. And then he just kind of does everything now. And it's like, yeah, you've really soured me on you. Yeah. But Ben Mendelsohn is just like, he knows it and he goes for it.
Yeah.
He way to stay in your lane.
That was a good, yeah, you're right.
Okay, then we have Jude Law. He is in AI with Haley Joel Osment. Road to Perdition. Talented Mr. Ripley.
Oh.
Have you seen that movie? Pretty good. Grand Budapest. Ooh. Remember he's in Neo Yokio?
Yes.
Grindelwald. He's Dumbledore.
He's Mr. Dumbledore.
Can't wait to cover that. Well, I can, but
as David Sims says, he puts his little tush on the desk in the
trailer. And then he's in Gattaca. Amazing
he's in that movie.
He's the guy in the wheelchair.
Wow.
Right?
Oh yeah.
He is. Yeah.
Cool.
I actually won't say it because if no one's seen it, watch that movie. It's also got Uma Thurman in it. And then he's in Cold Mountain, which has Jack White in it.
Yeah.
Fun fact. He's an aviator along with the rest of Hollywood.
Yeah. I don't remember him, but
he's like Errol something. Then he's probably a famous person. Everyone's like, really? And then he's also in The Holiday, among several other things.
Yes.
Then we have Annette Bening, who is the mom in American Beauty.
Oh, okay.
That I didn't realize.
Ooh. And she's working at the fast food restaurant?
No, he does.
Oh, he does. And she's
his wife.
Yes.
She's also in Mars Attacks. I think she's the hippie one, like with the crystals and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then The Great Outdoors.
What was the thing in Mars Attacks that we were just like dying? It had something to do with the birds. Didn't one of the birds like land on a guy and blow up or something? It was like right at the beginning.
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. You should cut that out, Micah.
Okay. And then I also did Lashana Lynch, who plays Brie Larson's best friend.
Okay.
She is in a lot of shows that I'm assuming are British.
Okay.
And that's about it.
Okay.
And then she has like upcoming. I hope that this movie is going to put her on the map because she is like.
She's really good.
One of the best parts of this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
She's got. I mean, of course, you have to remember all the other movies that came out this year, but I think that one scene when she's talking to Brie about like who she used to be. Like, remember she's getting like worked up. That's like Academy level acting.
It's a good scene. There. Yeah. You may be right.
I'm not saying she's getting nominated. I don't think she is. But if she does that in another movie, she might get nominated. In the right movie, she might get nominated for that scene.
Yeah, you're right. You're always right. Okay, so the movie begins, and this is the first movie to come out in Marvel after Stan Lee dies. And they do an intro that's all of Stan Lee's cameos.
Yeah. And it's really nice.
It's really beautiful. In the theaters, I started tearing up, and I turned to Jordan and I said, "That's not fair."
Yeah. And then I think it's after that it says, "Thank you, Stan."
Yeah, which is it's just really nice. I mean, without Stan, you don't have this stuff.
Without Stan, you don't have Lee.
Yeah, and so then the movie starts in the flashback of the ruins. Of the plane crash we'll learn later.
Yeah.
And then she
really like how that's all done. Very slow-mo stuff.
Cool. Very cool. We wake up. Well, Brie wakes up and she looks across the Kree planet that she's living on, and then she goes and meets with Jude Law, and they have some kind of fun banter. But it's not too over the top. It's not
sexual tension banter.
Yeah, which is nice.
I don't feel like they ever have it.
Yeah. No.
But it's just playful friend.
And then she's like, let's go down to this gym place and like fight. And as they're fighting, we get this great motif that's, I'm sure, very relevant to a lot of women. That's very cool that they keyed into because it's it's both subtle and really loud, if that makes sense. Like, it's not too in your face. Not that it can't be in your face, but I mean, the message is clear. But
what's the message?
And so when they're fighting, he's like, you need to learn how to control your emotions. You're too emotional in this fight. And that payoff at the end when they battle is it's so good.
Yeah.
We'll get to that though. So we do that, and then I'm kind of speeding through. You just hop in. And then he takes her to this supercomputer called the Supreme Intelligence,
which is an artificial intelligence.
Yes, and it's that's Annette Bening in there.
I like the effects.
Effects are very
and
cool.
Going into the artificial intelligence, I thought that was really different, unique, and fun. And then before that in the fight, they see that she has this little thing attached to the back of her, like right behind her ear. Mm-hmm. And you learn quickly that is the Kree has installed that on her to control her powers. Because when she meets with the AI, it's Annette Bening, this woman, and the interesting thing that I like about it is everyone sees a different person for when they go into artificial intelligence. Yeah. So this is who she sees, but she doesn't even know who this woman is.
Yes.
But that's when you learn that basically she says we can take your powers away as quickly as we gave them to you, something like that. And then I don't really remember what else they talked about other than you need to calm down, just furthering that kind of stuff. And then they go to a mission where one of their people have been kidnapped.
And who's at the mission? None other than the guy who's at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's oh, cool. That's freaking cool. And these are Kree people, so this totally tracks.
Yeah, then you think, if one happens to remember, which I barely do a quarter of the time, but it's wait, does that mean that Ronan's Kree? And then you remember yeah, he is.
Yeah. And then you remember that they announced that Ronan was going to be in the movie. And then you're ready to go.
Don't know that.
Oh, what?
Okay. But it's if Ronan's a Kree and Ronan is a bad guy, what does that say about these people? Even though this is in the past, it's maybe something happens and then they turn bad. But it is kind of huh, that's just interesting so far.
Yeah.
So you got your ragtag group of people. You got your big bearded, burly bearded guy. Then you have the guy from Guardians. Then you have another girl. And then I'm just trying to make a joke about how they try to fit every demographic into a group of people, which they kind of do. But so they're on this planet.
And when they go there, they go underwater. And I'll just a personal aside, I know that it is probably in the comic books, but I really hate the way her suit looks when she has the hair sticking up through the helmet.
I think
it looks so dumb.
We talked about it. Practical application, it's cool because we have talked about before, and this is just a nitpicky thing that does not matter.
Yeah.
But it's when a girl's, not even a girl, anyone who wears a helmet and then the helmet comes off and it's your hair's still perfect. You don't even look sweaty. But in this one, it shows that when her helmet goes up, that weird thing on the top of her head is her hair.
Yeah.
So it's I'm sure that is the design of the comic book, but it's also cool practical application of that's what happens to her hair.
Yeah.
In a way, it's finally, thank you. I've been wondering about that.
Also, you said that you had a big one for me when you were doing the notes. You were oh, I can't wait to tell Micah this. What was it?
It was American Beauty.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was when I saw it, I was oh yeah, that is her.
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
She was really good in it.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
Isn't Chris Cooper in that movie?
Yeah, he is.
Dang.
Yeah. And then that guy who's in Interstellar.
Yeah.
So then they go in and they talk about how there's Skrulls there, which are shapeshifters. And if you don't know much about Skrulls going into this movie, if you have any comic book knowledge at all, they're a pretty big part of the comic books. These are a huge alien race that I think showed up in the 70s. And I haven't read many comic books that have them in it. But I think that there is at least a run where a lot of Avengers die and stuff like that, and then you find out that years earlier that the Skrulls had come down And so some of those Avengers are not actually dead and they're on another planet, and kind of some fun, cool stuff like that, which before this movie came out, I think a lot of people were like, oh, how do the Skrulls play into Avengers? Because maybe like Nick Fury isn't really Nick Fury.
I'm glad so far they have kept it simple.
Yeah. I look forward to maybe them doing something weird like that. Like, oh, this character dies and then they come back or something. But that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
But
sometimes in certain contexts, those storylines are like, ugh, that's convenient. That's dumb. Yeah. So, but it's interesting to see what they'll do further with it.
Yeah. And then the other kind of weird thing is that I think I don't know if they ever are historically comic book wise good guys. I always understood them to be bad guys. So the whole movie I was not prepared for the twist of them being good guys. When Jude Law started turning on Captain Marvel, you're like, oh, okay, I could kind of see that, but maybe you weren't sure. But when the Skrulls turn out to be like fine, and the fact that they cast Ben Mendelsohn, you're like, oh, these are the bad guys. They're just the bad guys.
Yeah,
and
really
when they
casting.
don't, it turns out, I found that reveal to be
I feel
pretty
like
cool.
Jude Law's good casting in that way too, because he has played a lot of really charming, good characters.
Yeah.
But he has also played, like Road to Perdition is one of the scummiest, creepiest characters I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This AI is pretty, I know he's a good guy, but he's still like weird.
Yeah.
So it's like Jude Law can go there.
He can go unhinged.
They're both good casting.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I had a nasty little burp there.
Okay, so they're on the planet or the thing, whatever, and these people start coming up to them and they're like, oh, it's going to be dangerous. And then they're like, no, they're just, they're natives and they're hungry and they're just like basically begging them.
Yeah.
So it seems hostile. And meanwhile, Bree has gone into this like cave to go find the person when everyone else is like trying to stave off these people. And then that's when you find out it's this, like some of them transform into Skrulls. And then it's like, the mission has been compromised. Get out.
Yeah,
Get 'em.
and they all start turning into Skrulls, and they make a weird sound.
I love it. It sounds like they're supposed to be a giant animal kind of roar.
Yeah.
And it's like cool, but they're just like human size.
And then basically they capture our main character.
Well, the person they went there to save was in fact a Skrull.
Yeah.
And captures her. And then there's a pretty long, I don't know if montage is the right word, maybe it is, but of just these like visions / flashbacks
with Ben Mendelsohn like talking over them, going go back, and them rewinding and stuff, which I think is really cool and interesting.
I really liked that. And so we see a lot of Bree working for the Air Force, which it's like obviously very confusing, especially when it's just I think this is good writing in this part. Because, like, let's just imagine that this is not part of the Marvel Universe. It's a standalone movie, original thing.
Yeah.
And it starts off as a straight-up sci-fi movie.
Uh-huh.
And then you find out that this person has, like, maybe
Earth.
is a human.
Yeah.
Originally. Cool.
That's pretty wild.
That's so cool. I'm so into that. So then we see the Annette Bening.
Yeah.
Talking to Bree, and it's like, oh, maybe like, so is this person a human too? Like what is their actual relationship? Because Bree doesn't even know what their relationship is.
And what's cool is, at least for me, I've read like 2 issues of Captain Marvel. I had like no idea about this character. So all of this stuff was new to me. I don't know how true it is to a comic book, but I feel like they do a pretty good job of like not letting you know what's happening until it's happening.
Yeah.
Cause I was like, oh, when the movie started, I'm like, oh, she's an alien. Okay, cool. And then I'm like,
her blood's even blue.
I guess she's not.
You can't tell me she's human.
Yeah.
So she has all these flashbacks that then she does like wake up, like becomes conscious, and she sees that the Skrulls are going through her memories.
Yeah. And the Skrulls look so cool. Their design is great.
Love the makeup.
Looks mostly makeup.
Yes.
But maybe a little bit CG here and there.
Yeah.
Especially on the like smaller Skrull
and
guy.
I think that for being so heavily in such thick makeup, Ben Mendelsohn does, like, he acts through it.
Yeah.
I think he does a really good job with that. And so then to fast forward, she gets out of the thing that she's harnessed in and
fun
starts
sequence.
Yeah, fun.
I like how
sequence.
There's practical things, like she's not wearing shoes, so there's just like an issue.
Well, then suddenly at some point she gets shoes. as she's falling through the air.
I think she grabs shoes before she grabs shoes from someone before she leaves.
Doesn't really matter
puts
either way.
On. But stuff like that, I just think makes it a little more unique than just her fighting.
Well, and it's a fight scene. It's smart being like, they don't want to make her just like Superman. She like has those
like those
metal
braces
things on her hands, so
she
can't actually use her powers.
Yeah.
So she has to think of other ways to fight these things. So that was really good. And then fast forward, she falls out of the ship. Or no, she gets into like a little AirPod, flies out. You see that they've been orbiting Earth or a planet, and she falls to Earth into a blockbuster.
Yeah, which is, I mean, they're tugging at our heartstrings a little bit, but it feels pretty cool to see a blockbuster.
So right.
And you see like a True Lies cut out, and you see a Hook movie and Hudsucker Proxy, and then she picks up the movie The Right Stuff, which is a movie about astronauts going into space.
Yeah.
Which is obviously like an influence that they wanted to do. And then she walks out of it, and what I really like about this whole next sequence of the movie is she's not like fish out of water. I mean, she is,
but she's easily adaptable.
But she's like a fish who's like, okay, where's the water at? Like, I just need to find the water. Can you help me find the water? And everyone else is like, what the heck is a fish?
Which it just shows you she is a thing, like a being, whatever, human, not human, whatever. She's been on to this is not the first foreign planet she's been to.
Yeah,
She's been to other planets. So to her, this is normal. But then when, we go to another planet, our heart is bursting through our chest because we're having so much anxiety about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was really well done. So then she calls Jude and says like, I'm on sector boobity boo, and Jude's like, stay there, don't move, we're coming to get you, even though she's like, I can continue on with this mission.
She's like, there's 3 scrolls in this place, we need to take care of this before things get out of hand. And then a man pulls up, and he looks pretty recognizable. A 70-year-old man gets out of a vehicle. His name's Sam Jackson. And you go, wait a second, he doesn't look 70. And then if you're like us, you're like, wait, he's 70 right now? Yeah, he turned 70 this year. And
happy birthday, man.
And you're like, I already saw him in Glass, and now I'm here to see him again. And later I'm going to see him like 2 more times this year, maybe 3 more times. How much can a 70-year-old work? And then you look at him and you go, oh, no, he's like 45 right now, because they aged him down, and it looks so good. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. I don't even question it.
No, I really don't.
All I notice is that he looks younger. I don't notice, I don't even think de-aged. I think young Sam Jackson.
The only one I notice is Greg Clark, or Clark Gregg, or whatever his name is, Coulson.
Yeah.
He looks a little too shiny.
He just looks stiff, but at the same time, that's nothing different than him in previous roles or previous movies.
Which leads us to Greg Coulson. Yeah. I mean Agent Coulson. Let's talk about him.
Stick in the mud.
They bring back this character that I guess people are into this character, but we talked about, go back and listen to our first Avengers movie. We talked about how he is so, what is he? I don't know anything about him. And then they finally bring stuff back to him in Avengers and have him have this love of Captain America.
But then if you're me, who's a layperson, seeing these movies, and you're like, well, that's sad, I guess. Why do I care for this person? Yeah. Other than he's been in a couple of these for maybe 2 minutes of screen time, 30 seconds of talking.
And I think the big thing I came down to is I'm just like, I just don't buy his face.
Yeah.
Like, he just doesn't look like the character that they are pretending he is.
I think he is. I think they purposely wanted to cast someone who's not that well known.
Yeah.
And then over time, maybe it's like, oh, it's that guy. The only thing I know him as he's in 500 Days of Summer. But
I think he's bad in this movie, I would say. I'd go so far as to say bad.
Yeah, I just think they could have done better.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to be there. But I think it makes sense that he's there. It's not not bad.
But you could have just not written him in it.
Yeah.
And nothing would change.
It could have just been a fan theory that people wished had happened.
Yeah.
And so Stan Lee is in the train because they pick up a chase. I'm skipping ahead a little bit. And I'm sure they must have done like a reshoot or something when he died, because she's looking for a scroll on a train, and she looks at Stan Lee, pulls the newspaper back, and then smirks at him like, I know who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel like they probably had the footage of Stanley and maybe like he said a joke or something. And then they were like, we can't do that now. We got to make it a little nicer.
Yeah.
And it's, again, you're just like, stop. And then she punches an old lady who turns out to be a Skrull. Kind of funny.
Another cool action sequence.
Train
action sequences are always cool.
Yeah, unless stakes are always higher. Well, we'll see. I want to rewatch that because I saw Parasite. And for those of you who, I'm not going to say anything about it, but because it's best not to know anything about it. But highly recommend go see Parasite. It's very good. And that's where I'll leave it. Can you take over right now?
So then she changes out of her Kree costume, Kree uniform, and gets on some, like, she got flannel, she's got jeans, she's got a motorcycle and a leather jacket.
I think she's, leather.
She's 90s girl.
Yeah.
So it's very grunge. I think she's also wearing combat boots.
She's wearing a Nine Inch Nails shirt.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah, NIN.
Okay. I was trying to figure it out. That's when you're not a Nine Inch Nails fan and you're like, must be a brand of some fashion thing.
No.
So then, so she goes, she's trying to follow the trail to like something is, seeing those flashbacks. She's like, there is something about me that I don't remember. Mm-hmm. And being here is like a little too familiar. And she's kind of following these little trails to like, she knows she needs to, she found out by going to a computer, that she needs to go to this bar.
Yeah.
Because she has this memory of something that's like, okay, I'm going to go to that bar. So she rides a motorcycle to this bar. Samuel L. Jackson follows her, and then they like have their official meet. And she's like, you got to prove to me that you're not a Skrull. So he tells her some really intimate, he doesn't tell her really intimate things, but he tells her things that no one else would know about him, like odd, weird things.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, I'll help you. I believe you. And then she's like, okay, I'll trust you enough.
And this is when we see that they have, like, this is when their chemistry starts happening, and they have really good chemistry together.
Yeah, it's good.
And I hope whenever they make a sequel, I hope that they are like the main characters again. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, I would like that too.
Yeah.
So then, excuse my burp. They go to Air Force One base thing,
like a SHIELD headquarters.
Oh, a SHIELD.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they go to a SHIELD headquarters or area thing, and out in the middle of the desert, and they get clearance to look at some of these files, but they get taken to a room and are just waiting in this room.
Yeah.
And Samuel, even so, it's like at this point, Bree's just like, well, he seems fine, I'm fine. Like, this is his world. He seems comfortable. I'm fine. But then he's like, something isn't totally right here.
Yeah.
Because she is technically an alien. He has been like ordered to like crack down on all this stuff and like basically bring her in. Mm-hmm. But he has chosen now to help her, which means he's going against orders. So he finagles a way to get into the room with all the files. Meanwhile,
because they're looking for Lawson, who they had found out from the Skrull interrogation. That was the name of the woman, the Annette Bening character, Lawson, and she had this Pegasus project.
Meanwhile, they find the cat.
Yeah, Goose the cat.
Cool cat. Yeah, so then they look through these files called the Pegasus operation, and Brie Larson finds a picture of herself by a plane.
Yeah, and I like how that is all played because it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of expecting it at this point, but her character is not. And her acting is really good. She's like, I don't understand.
Yeah, she's like loss of expression shock, which is good job. So then I think meanwhile at this time, like S.H.I.E.L.D.'s showing up. And also at this time, Ben Mendelsohn, the Skrull, has turned into Ben Mendelsohn, who is Samuel Jackson's boss.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
and there's that great scene when they're going to not that great scene, but just a couple of lines of dialogue where they're going to the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, Bree and Sam, and he says like, you can just call me, you can call me Fury. Nobody calls me Nick. Nobody calls me Nicholas. Whatever. And then when Ben Mendelsohn shows up,
I think the important part is she's like, what does your mom call you?
And he goes, Fury. Yeah. And then when they go there, then his quote unquote boss, who's now a Skrull, says Nicholas Fury.
No, he's just like, good job, Nicholas.
Yeah, that's what he says when they're in the elevator. So then he knows.
He's got this confused look on his face.
Yeah, because Sam Jackson's the best.
Yeah, and briefly before they get to Bree, she has a very brief phone call with Jude again, because they're still en route to Earth. And she basically is just saying, like, I'm really confused. I saw this picture of me, all this stuff. And he's, paraphrasing, is just like, don't believe anything. Like, don't trust anyone. Don't do anything else. Yeah. We're still coming. And then it doesn't even, is that when they have a brief conversation with Ronan, Jude, and that one guy?
Yes, they do.
And I forget what Ronan says, but it's like, I'm bad. Yeah. I want to go kill some people. I'm going to make my way to Earth too.
Well, and this is kind of a cool thing, both with the Agent Coulson, Ronan, and the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy. And I may have said this in the episode you'll hear next week, people, but it's really cool that with this universe now, that because they can do different timelines and there's alternate things and all that, they can like bring back actors to reprise their roles at it could be a different period, it could be like a scene that had already happened. I just think that that's so cool, and it kind of makes the universe bigger to me.
Yeah.
Or maybe it makes it smaller. I don't know. It's really fun. That makes it a little more fun. That's the word, fun.
Yeah, no, I think so too. For anyone who might be confused if Ronan is played by Lee Pace, as well in this movie, because Mike and I were confused if it was still him. It is.
It is. Okay.
It's Lee Pace.
Yeah, there was something. Maybe he's just. I guess it's like 4 or 5 years later.
It's exactly what you said. He didn't have those black markings of paint on his face. He was just blue face.
So that's cool. So maybe he like upgraded or something like that. Maybe you could assume like his religious thing, like he purified a planet and now he wears black paint or something. I mean,
is that what it happens in Guardians?
Well, I think in Guardians he just has the black paint. So what happened in between?
There's a scene where we see them put it on him.
Oh, that's right.
So stop talking. So when Jude's so Ronan says something about like, I'm coming, boo boo, and he asks them a question probably about where she is, and Jude's like doesn't totally answer the question.
Boo boo?
Yeah. So then you see a moment where it's like, oh, I think I still kind of trust Jude, although I don't really know what his goal is. Like what is his actual motivation at this point? Yeah. Because it doesn't seem he's really like willing to help, like to like trust in Bree, but he's also not like forthcoming with all the information for his boss.
Yeah.
Where is Jude? So then another
Jude.
Okay. Another action sequence between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Skrulls. Mm-hmm. In the file room.
Yeah.
And that kind of all ends. Well, okay, yeah.
Well, Sam Jackson picks up Goose, and the Skrull is like, "Oh, get that flirkin away from me!" And he's like, "It's
not
a cat."
For a while, Micah.
No, I thought it scared him away here. Oh, that's at the house.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed.
So this basically this ends with Bree and Samuel Jackson knowing to go to her friend's house. Like they get that information.
Maria Rambeau's house.
Okay, I was gonna look up her name.
And yeah, so they go there, and then this is when I think the indie like personal style of Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck really shine, because you see the relationship between the daughter of Maria Rambeau and Brie Larson, and how Brie Larson shows up and she's like, I don't know who you guys are.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're my best friend.
You're my sister, basically her aunt.
Yeah, she calls you aunt. We thought you've been dead for 6 years. I don't really know how to take this, and you're just kind of showing up, and I'm really happy you're here, but I don't know how to process this.
Yeah, and it's like I feel mad at you, but there's no reason.
I like that concept,
because I feel like she acts that really well. Like, I feel mad at you, but you actually haven't done anything to me.
Well, and I think the lesser writing, playing off of what you're saying, and the lesser acting is to just have like a total breakdown.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that she's just like, I guess I'm happy. I don't know.
And then she has her great monologue scene.
Yeah.
Talking to Bree, saying, I mean, what does she say again?
She says, "Pass me that cheese, Bree."
No, but she's based. I mean, it's kind of all that what we've been talking about, but saying like, apparently 6 years ago, I thought my best friend died. Mm-hmm. And I've just been trying to move forward with it. And now suddenly my best friend is back and I'm just supposed to be fine with that and help you and like believe that you're an alien. Yeah. Because she believes she's a Kree. Yeah. Although not really, she's not sure now. So that's a really powerful scene. And then the Skrulls show up and you're like, oh, they're effed. And then you find out they're not because the Skrull shows them the black box from when the plane crash happened. And then we have the whole sequence. How come they have that? Did they get it from S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Maybe.
Probably. Whatever. Yeah. So then, so that also, that's after that, it's important. No, it's also, Bree's like, why should I trust you, the Skrull? Like, I have been raised, these last 6 years to believe that you're like our arch nemesis. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you don't understand what my people have been through and what we continue to go through, and that we are going to be extinct. The Skrull will be extinct, which is like, oh, Ronan's in this movie? And he's like a genocidal maniac. Yeah. And he's trying to rid of the Skrulls. It's like, interesting. It's just like really cool that they brought him back. Really cool. Yeah. I just kind of like it keeps, for a very big world, it does connect dots and also keeps the world contained.
Yeah, and it's like okay, I can see how in 20 years he's gonna be what he is.
Totally.
And he even launches nukes at, or not nukes, but like his version of nukes at Earth later in the movie. Yeah. Like he is already pretty crazy. Yeah. But then the Skrulls show up, and it seems threatening, but then we find out like what happened is Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, which I love how they've been calling her Veers the whole movie, and then we find out that her dog tag was broken when Jude Law found him.
Veers.
Yeah, and so then we find out that Lawson, the Annette Bening character, was flying around with Carol Danvers, and they were and then they were attacked.
Well, not Carol. Annette Bening's character has been studying a way to like break light speed or something. Yeah. She was working on something groundbreaking in physics. Yeah. And she essentially did it, and her and Bree were like doing it, and that's when the Skrulls? No, the Kree. The Kree show up, and you find out that Annette Bening is a Kree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
She is a Kree, because remember when they do crash, she's bleeding blue. Yeah. And Bree's bleeding red.
Yeah, because she gets a transfusion later.
Yeah. So you see that. So it's in the beginning, back to the beginning of the movie, when she has that dream, she sees a Skrull pointing a gun at her, but in reality it was Jude. Yeah. And you see, before Annette died, she told Bree, like, shoot the engine, which has all of her work in it, the camp, like all that stuff. And so Bree shoots it, and she absorbs it, and that's how she becomes Captain Marvel, which is cool.
What I sorry, go ahead.
It's like that. that's the origin moment.
Yeah,
and it is very, very epic. But I feel like
the slow motion and the visual effects are crazy. But her absorbing
that's the cool part about it, because it's visual without words. Yeah, which is great. So then Jude Law's like, oh, change of plans. I'm not going to kill this person. We
need to learn how to control them, because they have a lot of power now.
Yeah.
But what I love about this, and what I think makes this movie unique, is it is an origin story. It truly is. But I love how instead of going A, B, C, it goes C, D, E, or it goes C, D, A, B, E. Yeah. And I love in bringing the origin story into another story, so that we're moving forward with the character, and we're not having to do like all that legwork of like, just like them getting their powers and all of that stuff,
and then learning how to use them.
Yeah, and
which
can
is always
be
like
awesome.
15 minutes at least.
Like in this movie, it's just cool that it's and it makes the genre of the origin. It's not just like a hero's journey. It is, but it's also like it's kind of a mystery, and she doesn't know what's going on. And I think that's really cool, and I think that's part of why I like the movie so much.
It's very much a drama in that way. So then she she relearns all of these memories. Yeah. And then, I think we've already said this, but has agreed to work with the Skrulls and help them. And by helping them, it's also saving Earth, just like saving people because they need to get everything off the planet at this point.
And we find out that Lawson has been hiding the scrolls. And I think part of what she was working on was to try and get them saved and out of reach of the Kree.
Yes, that was the bigger part of her plan to create this beyond light speed thing. I mean, yeah. So they go, it's Bree, Ben Mendelsohn, Sam, and Maria.
Yeah.
All go up to where the scrolls have been for a really long time. Like some of they're like some of the rest.
Yeah.
You know? And it's the ship's kind of cool. It's just different. Looks like a box.
Yeah, it's Lawson's lab.
That super interesting, but it's like, okay, it's different. I appreciate that.
The color palette's nice. Just
I think it's a little too dark in there. And maybe that's supposed to symbolize
I think I liked it because it was just kind of different.
Yeah.
I liked the dark.
I think it was dark in a way that it was like, I can't really see anything.
Oh, okay.
But then, so we see the scrolls, we see Ben Mendelsohn has a family. So it's like, not only is he trying to save his people, he's trying to save his family. So it's like, oh, I care about this character even more now.
Well, and that's when I'm like, oh, he wasn't playing her, I guess. Like he was being genuine. Okay. Whoa. What a twist for me. And then we find out that the energy core they've been looking for is none other than the Tesseract, which is really cool. It's crazy how much the Tesseract, more than like any other stone, has been like such an important part of a lot of this series.
Yeah.
And the scrolls.
So then
I wrote hanging and banging upstairs. What does that mean?
I have no idea. There's no banging in this movie. Okay, so then the Kree show up. Jude and the crew show up, and they're like, he's trying to convince Bree of like, you're a Kree. For a brief time, he's still like, this is who you are. You need to like change back your loyalty. We also forgot to mention that before they leave Earth, she finally changes into her actual
costume,
Captain Marvel uniform. But then it's like, she still has the chip behind her ear. So it's like she, they fight, whatever. And then the Kree capture her and they like put her in the AI again.
And they do that. They do that. I just thought it was weird to note that they play that like girl pop punk song.
Yeah. While
she's fighting. Which is kind of cool for what it like symbolizes. I think it's like it's a very weird choice of song that kind of makes the scene stand out because it's really like not that intense of a song at all. I don't know. I thought it was worth noting. I don't really know what to.
I don't have an opinion.
I don't really either. I just wanted to mention it. And then she's captured and she's like imprisoned in the computer, the Supreme Intelligence, and that's
like that sequence. It's cool.
Yeah, and she has to she fights the computer.
Oh, and I think they've done it earlier in the movie, but especially at this part, she has a lot of flashbacks of her as a child.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout various stages of people telling her, like, you need to stay down, you need to stop trying. And it's her doing like physical things that like men have done and boys get to do that she also wants to be a part of, but she like nearly dies a lot throughout her life because she just wants to like be included in part of it and not like, because the reason people are telling her to stop is because she's a girl.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's preachy.
No, and if it is, who cares?
Yeah.
The message needs to be sent. Yeah. But I do think it's actually like not it's fairly like subtle. It's just like Nicole said in that quote I read, like it's just the version of the story that they're telling.
Yeah.
Like that's the story they want to tell. And they do want to put that message out there. Good for them.
Yeah.
But it also it just makes sense. That's what the movie's built to. And that whole sequence where the little girl is standing up and like gonna try again, and she's standing up in the army and at the Air Force, and then she finally fights the computer off and then breaks out, which
and that chip
quote,
falls
unquote,
off of her.
No one can do, and she absorbs all her power. That is so cool.
Yeah. So then the real fight happens. Fights all the people, all the Kree again, and then wins. And the cat. So the previous to this, Ben Mendelsohn's sees the cat and he's like, "That's a flirt, and get it away from me. That's scary." And then you see that the cat who is not, it's not really a cat, eats
the Flerken, yeah.
The Flerken eats the Tesseract.
Mm-hmm.
So basically Bree is a diversion. They think she is a Tesseract when actually they do, and they're leaving the ship.
Yeah.
So they leave. Woohoo. And then Bree fights all of them, beats all of them. And then Ronan shows up and within 15 seconds wipes them out.
And she kind of says, Earth, stay off of Earth.
Yeah.
And then they come back down and Jude is still fighting. There's still other fighting. Well, I'm going to kind of skip it all.
There's not that much though, because she, at that last moment, Jude's like, okay, this is the, you and me, no powers.
Just
and the like
music
old
swells
times.
And you're like, oh, she's going to beat him like man
and
to
part
man.
of you is like, I kind of hope there's not another fight scene. I'm like pretty actioned out at this point. And then she just blasts him.
And then she says, I have nothing to prove to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I was a girl, I'd feel so validated right now. Right? Is that bad to say?
No.
Because this movie, I'm like, oh, man, I'm not a girl.
Okay. I don't know what to say.
I'll probably cut that. That sounds weird. I'm just kind of making a joke, but I do like this movie a lot. And then the cat scratches Nick Fury in the eye.
And he's like, oh, it's fine. It's just a scratch. And Ben Mendelsohn's like, no.
Which is funny. I think it's funny. I don't think we needed to see it. And I also think it's pretty lame because in Captain America Winter Soldier, he says, the last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. And so...
the last thing you trusted was a cat. Which is like, maybe you trust too much.
And it's... What's kind of stinks is like... I think that line in Winter Soldier could have been a moment in Captain Marvel that would have... really helped the growth of his character and maybe shown something about him, but it's thrown away for a dumb joke.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like that.
That's a good point.
And also, why would the cat do that?
Because it's not a cat. Also, cats are moody. And it is a cat.
And then Captain Marvel gives him the pager, which he'll use at the end of Infinity War. The Kree find their new home. He sits at the computer and he says he has a thing.
Well, it sounds like you said the Kree? Kree go back home?
I'm sorry, the Skull.
So it sounds like
Skrulls.
Because Ben Mendelsohn said like there's still thousands of us out there, and it sounds like Bree's going to help them. Sounds like that's why she leaves.
Yes, yeah. And then he changes the name on his computer to Avengers Initiative because he's talking about how they need a shield over the world kind of thing.
Yeah,
that one it is like the Eye, kind of in the Solo territory, but I kind of like that one. I thought it was kind of fun.
I'm fine with that one
because Captain Marvel says something like, we're just Avengers or something.
Yeah.
Stuff like that is pretty cheesy, and you really don't need to do it. It's okay in this one. And then we have the post-credit scene where the pager is reading, and Captain Marvel shows up and meets the Avengers.
Yeah.
Which I remember seeing that in theaters, and it's like, oh, baby, when is Endgame out? Let's go.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the credits of this movie, we have the old cat, the Flerken, puke out the Tesseract.
Yep.
And that's Captain Marvel.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, it's an easy 7 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it. It's pretty high in my Marvel ranking. So next week is Endgame. Today is December 6th. I released a song called Meadowlark, and it is my personal favorite song from the album. I hope that you would listen to it, maybe even download it. And if you really like it, or if you really like this podcast, you'd go to patreon.com/Micah McCaw, and you could sign up for $5 or $10 or more if you want. I think there's no limit. And monthly, you'd get early access to stuff. You get the podcast early, and you get exclusive things. Thank you for listening. Marvel is pretty great. It's pretty great. I'm just going to say it. Do you have anything else to say about the movie?
No, I want to go to bed.
I do too. Next week is Avengers Endgame, the best one of the series.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.